Marr?
Yeah, I like that one.
Good.
It's a good one.
Good. We're going to talk some more in a moment. Certainly hope so. We're not going to be in for one sentence. Cost provided courtesy of Johnny Marr. Was that written about you?
Most definitely, yes.
Was it?
Handsome devil as well, I'd say.
You're so modest. A Manchester man through and through, aren't you?
Afraid so, yeah.
You're terribly proud of Manchester.
Yeah, I think it's just coincidental that we came from there, and there's no kind of mystique attached to Manchester, but I think we will end up there. We're missing our homeland terribly.
What do you mean there's no kind of mystique attached to Manchester?
A lot of people ask us about Manchester, sort of persistently. We were asked a lot when we first started, do we consider ourselves to be a Manchester group? That, for me, automatically conjures up, Factory Records, really, and Joy Division and Buzzcocks and things like that. And I think, of course, we're in the line of traditional pop groups who have become popular from Manchester over the last sort of 6-7 years. But I don't think we've got a particularly sort of, I don't know really, northern appeal, and specifically northern appeal. I think everybody outside Manchester can understand what we're saying just as well as inside. But having said that, some of the lyrics feature quite strongly, things like Wally Range and Iron Bridges and things. And there is quite a northern sort of flavour to what we do, courtesy of Morrissey's lyrics most of the time, which I think is a really good thing. It's something that we'd hate to lose. And we still get back there as much as possible. In fact, we're probably there just as much as we always were. It's just that we have places to live down here now.
Is it difficult sort of settling in here then? I mean, when you've come from a place like Manchester?
It is, yeah, really, because we're still very unsettled. We're still on the sort of treadmill of recording and rehearsing for tours and writing new songs, really. I think it's a lot easier to get things done in Manchester. I think you're left alone quite a lot. But really, we knew that when we came down here, really. The main reason for coming down here was to keep an eye on what was happening, and we felt a bit out of touch in Manchester, which is a shame. But as I say, we do get back there as often as we can.
What sort of things do you pine for, though, when you're away from Manchester? What do you miss about it?
I think I miss the people taking an interest in what you're doing, really. I mean,
not only music.
No, not only music. Just as a person, sort of walking down the road, everybody. It's not like a utopia where everybody knows everybody and lets on, but it's very close to that. I miss going out and seeing my friends in the hacienda, and I just miss the buildings, really, and everything about it. But it's one of the things you have to put up with, I suppose.
When you're a megastar.
Working on it.
Were you a Manchester trendy? Your face, then.
Oh, no. Tells it all. Yeah, I must admit I was, for a long time. And it was something which I was quite pleased about, really, because it probably sounds really weird, but I remember a few years ago, there was this big kind of London scene, and everybody had to look like Kurt Brandon, and everybody had to wear robot shoes and things. And I think because of that, Manchester got very, very cliquey, and sort of everybody, particularly in the hacienda, everybody just started, how can I put it, doing a kind of alternative thing, which is when the Smiths started, really, and we were playing a few gigs in Manchester, and people started to look a bit different in Manchester. I do believe people started growing their hair long first in Manchester.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, and, people sort of wearing beads and things. But it was good, it was an alternative to the kind of Marlon Brando kind of macho image of the King's Road, and that was one of the things that people liked about us initially, I'm sure. The fact that we weren't seen at the White Club every week and the Camden Palace.
So the people that you were hanging around with at that particular time, were they any sort of form of inspiration to you?
Yeah, I'm sure they were, and they still are, really. As I said, people really are connected with Factory Records. I saw quite a lot of them for a long time, and I still do, really. And it's just kind of a buzz between musicians and what creative people are doing, and it's always been that way, really. In Manchester, I remember around the time of the New Hormones set up in Manchester, there was a kind of clique who were probably older than I was, and they were sort of part of the kind of creative nucleus, if you like, of Manchester. It sounds very idealistic, but that was really the way I saw it. And the same has happened further on now, where you have, again, there's a lot of things that evolve around Factory, but not necessarily so because of what we've done. And there's a clique there of musicians and groups and people who are putting together fanzines and people who organise like second-hand clothes shops and things like that. And still a scene, which is good. There's a lot of young people in Manchester, maybe because of the university and the Polytechnic, I don't know. I know they're sort of quite highly rated. So there always seems to be a lot of young people doing something there.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, there are lots of, in inverted commas, cottage industries in Manchester. People really do sort of make an effort to not place so much importance on a place like London. I mean, they actually decentralise the whole thing and do it themselves, don't they?
Exactly, yeah, and that sort of thing's been seen, of course, with the big sort of Scottish thing that's happened over the last couple of years. I think it's a really good thing. Not necessarily just to have it down on London all the time, but just that people from the provinces can make some money and be heard by the nation. You know, you don't have to be hanging around sort of being places in London, really, wherever they are those days.
Is it though because in the northwest there is particularly high unemployment, so people, rather than not doing anything, they're trying to have a go by themselves? Do you think?
I'd say so, yeah. I think it's, for a lot of people, it is the only escape. And having said, I mean, the nightlife is. It's quite interesting now, but there isn't a great deal of it, and there isn't a variety in things to do. So really, a lot of people are forced to make use of their own kind of talents and abilities, which is something that I've noticed with the kind of fanzine sort of movement, if you like. I mean, we've got involved in a lot of fanzine interviews, and it's really good. It's sort of people who've got nothing else to do other than to write, and they're communicating with other young people who have a lot of things in common, and I think it's a really good thing. It's very much, in many ways, it's like the spirit of 76, 77, which is, again, a cliche in itself, but it's something that's quite precious. It's very young. So all's not lost.
It's good that there's spirit.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there's a lot of spirit up there.
What sort of family life did you have?
I had a really, really good time, and I still do. I mean, as far as my teenage life goes, I didn't spend a great deal of time at home, and but I have really good, strong family ties, and I come from a very close family, and they've, like my parents and my brother and my sister, always really encouraged me to do what I wanted, and a lot of the time that was quite dangerous, because it involved sort of me playing the guitar really late and writing and having sort of weirdo friends around and things, but I think, you know, they're really pleased with the way everything's turned out, and in fact I tend to see them a lot more now that I'm away from Manchester, as opposed to just being away from home and living somewhere else in the city.
You have to make an effort to go and see them, not?
Yeah, I tend not to take them for granted as much as I used to.
Do they like coming to see you play?
They do when they get the chance, yeah. They came to see us at the Free Trade Hall and the Hacienda, and they were both really good gigs, and it was good for us, for all the group, because we had the same sort of thing, you know. Mike's mum and dad came, and etc. It's very cosy.
When you were about 14 or 15, what sort of music were you listening to? Were you into alternative things, or what?
Let me see, that wasn't so long ago.
No, it wasn't.
No, I had this preoccupation with Tamla Motown music for a long time, which I still do have to a certain extent. I don't listen to the records I used to listen to as much. I think I'm struggling a little bit now for things new, but I tended to get into a lot of really old records, as did our friend Morrissey, and but I tended to listen to a lot of, say, black American stuff, and he listened to a lot of British pop, and because I'd say we're both, as a lot of young people, were really sick of what we were hearing on the radio, really, and when we, you know, and at gigs, and it seemed like I reached a brick wall as far as new, exciting music was concerned, and that was probably one of the things that spurred me on to write my own tunes in the first place.
Who inspired you to play the guitar, though?
I'd definitely say it was Mark Bolan. I remember seeing him, and it wasn't so much, it was just his image, really. Just the man with the guitar, and he was very small, and I thought he was great.
When was the first time you picked a guitar up, then?
Probably the next day. I don't know, I'd say it was probably about 11. And I mean, I can remember being interested in it, not obsessed, but an uncle of mine had one a long time before, and it was the only thing I ever thought of doing, really, playing guitar. I always messed around with guitars that didn't work and things, guitars with no strings, and mine in front of the mirror, etc.
Do you have a fascination for guitars, then? I mean, do you collect them or anything like that?
Yeah, if I had a lot more money, I'd certainly spend a lot more on guitars. As it is now, that whatever money I make, I do spend really quickly. And
on what?
Mr. Taxman, on guitars, really. I'm living in London. It's really expensive living down here. It's just a drag, yeah, taxes and things. But I bought quite a lot of guitars, and it's good. It is like an investment because I don't get rid of guitars, and they're all very precious to me. I mean, I don't want to be like, you know, this obsessive kind of Hendrix freak. I don't have that kind of guitar hero attitude. But
I was going to ask you about that, though. I mean, what do you think of guitarists like Eric Clapton or Jimmy Page or people like that?
Can
you appreciate...
Of course, yeah, I can appreciate them, but what I find really is guitarists, especially guitarists who play fast, it's just like a reflex, really, and it was something that I was always very aware of from being young, which I really prided myself on, when a lot of my friends really went for the kind of Jimmy Page guitar players, and I tended to go for guitarists unknowns like, say, Bert Jansch, who's a very uncool folk guitarist, and people who thought about what they were playing as opposed to just sticking a fuzz pedal on and playing this really fast kind of riff. I don't really go for that at all. Some people may notice that there aren't any guitar solos on any of our records. You know?
Yes, but having said that, the guitar is quite distinctive, isn't it? I mean, you're very, very much aware of it in the way that you're aware of Morrissey's lyrics. And is that something that you worked? Did you want your own distinctive style, or did that come naturally? That sound?
I was forced into that position, really, because I've got a very kind of greedy guitar style. That's the only way I can describe it. Whereas I try to really play what 2 or 3 guitars might do, which is really the reason why I couldn't work with another guitarist in a group full time. I'm much too into filling out spaces, and I do try and imagine string parts and heavy piano parts, which I suppose has come from listening to old time and Motown records. Things that would normally be put in, as I say, on strings or on keyboard. I try to play on guitar, and I think it makes for an interesting sound.
So how do you work? Because your sound is so distinctive and Morrissey's voice and lyrics are so distinctive and blah, 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 drums, everything. Do you work separately together or together, if that makes sense?
What normally happens is I have a sort of basic tune, and then really basically I play it Morrissey just to see whether he approves and whether he likes it, really, because, you know, I'd hate to get involved in something and spend hours and hours on it and then I say, oh God, but that's never happened, thank God. No, what normally happens is I just get the tune, play it to Morrissey, put it down on tape, and then he goes away for a few days and comes back with lyrics on the top. A couple of times we've done it in reverse, totally by accident, because he's written lyrics and given them to me. That happened with Stuff for Little Children. But he tends to get a cassette with some tunes on, and he spends his time just sitting with it on his own, and so we do work separately most of the time.
Okay, well, let's listen to this one, which I think is very, very moving and brings a lump to the throat. This is Please, Please, Please Let Me Get What I Want. I just think that's really beautiful. That's the Smiths. And Please, Please, Please Let Me Get What I Want. Morrissey has had endless coverage in the music press. I mean, the soul has been bared. What about you? I mean, do you like to keep your private life private, or what?
Definitely, yeah, I do. Because, how can I put it? I just think it gets a bit boring, really. I think, of course, everything, I stand behind everything Morrissey's done, and he has had a lot of coverage and survived where I think other, say, weaker personalities would have sank, really. He's got a lot of interesting and prolific things to say. He's got a lot of things to say that people want to read about and that people sell magazines for. So, but I haven't really. I do like to keep all my skeletons in the cupboard.
And you say you haven't, but there's always somebody willing to read whatever you've got to say, I suppose.
Well, that's nice, but I would like to keep it that way. I don't think I'm particularly prolific as a sort of spokesman of a generation or any of that kind of thing. It is nice when people ask me about, the way we write and the type of influences I have and so on. But I think you can only go so far with that, and once it's been told, and then it just gets down to how do you feel today, Johnny? Or, and so, I mean, I enjoy talking to people, sure, and especially when people asking me specifically about what I do. It is very nice, but I don't think I've got anything particularly wild to keep up.
But because of the sort of band that you are and the audience that you appeal to, who seem to be a very intelligent sort of audience, and the audience that would have opinions about certain things, do you find that they do come up to you and say, What do you think about unemployment? What do you think about, CND or whatever?
Definitely, yeah. Well, people who write to us always want to know our opinions on. A lot of people want to know where we stand politically, our opinions on the government and things. And I reply when I can, and I tell them exactly what I think. But I couldn't make a sort of alternative career of it. I'd never be a DJ or anything like that.
So what do you do? I mean, do you take music home with you? Is it a 24-hour-a-day thing or what?
I'm afraid it is really, yeah. I tend to be one of these people who turns night into day.
You're a night person, aren't you?
Yeah, afraid so, yeah. That's just the way it's turned out over the last few years. I do tend to write mostly sort of 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning because, lie there in bed and then the most prolific chord change will come to me. I'll write, 25 number ones and then the next day it's all forgotten. So I learned my lesson a long time ago that the way to not be annoyed when you wake up the next morning is to just stay up and write it and then sleep when you can, it sounds very, I suppose it can sound very like trying to live the whole rock star tradition. It certainly isn't like that. I try to keep myself healthy. It's just that my priorities seem to go the wrong way around sometimes.
But what about daylight hours?
Oh yeah, I occasionally see the sun. A few months ago. I tend to get really bored really quickly. A really short kind of what's the word? Anyway, I'm always lost for things to do. So sat on my own in the middle of the night, the only thing really to do is to write and to play guitar and make tapes and things. And that's the way it's worked out, and that's the way I've always written since before the Smiths. And I couldn't really change, but I do miss out on going shopping during the day and things like that occasionally.
So music is very much a way of life for you?
Oh, entirely, yeah.
Have you ever thought of, or do you do things like photography or go fishing or anything like that? Morrissey is a great reader, isn't he? He's an avid reader.
Yeah, yes, well, I read, but I read about musicians, which is really boring, you see, which again is why I don't tend to bear too much of my soul in interviews, because it is very much I'm a musician's musician, if anybody's, really. And most of the things I do have to say, most of my opinions are based on music, which I suppose could be quite boring to people who aren't interested in music, really.
Are you selective about the sort of musicians that you read about?
Yeah, I am really. I am. It just has worked out that I haven't been very impressed, or certainly not influenced by anyone for a long time. Anyone. As I said, Mark Bolan was probably my first influence, and he was probably the sort of most modern of my influences, really. I tend to I really do have a lot of respect for blues musicians, and, people like B.B. King and John Lee Hooker especially, and people like that.
What about music now? The charts at the moment, if you look, it's full of sort of club stuff. Are you impressed by that sort of music or not?
No, I tend not to be, really. I find a lot of the music's, again, Morrissey said this many times, but it is true that it's very safe and very kind of formalised. And one thing I feel really good about being in the Smiths at this moment in time is with the sort of people who do like the idea of taking risks. I've noticed we've been criticised recently for not doing so, and for maybe a few people are looking for this kind of parody, Smiths parody. But I find that a lot of people, when they get to a certain kind of status, where we are now, 4 or 5 hit singles, they do seem to get worried about losing the kind of superficial elements of success. The car, being on top of the pops, being on the front page of smash hits or whatever. Now, these things are all very nice and very attractive, but I've realised now that being in the Smiths and being with Mike, Andy and Morrissey is the most important thing, and that if I'm sure it sounds very boring, I've said it a few times, but again, if our singles didn't sell tomorrow, then the fact that I'm still with the other 3, and that Mike and Andy and Morrissey are still going, well, that's a great riff, Johnny, and we were all really pulling our weight, then I think that's the most important thing. And we've all realised it. We've all seemed to have got, I don't want it to sound too corny, but we have got a lot closer, because it is us 4 away from home now, and we're surrounded by a lot of people who we're not used to very often.
OK, we'll stick around because we're going to talk some more in a moment, but right now it's nice. That's the current single from the Smiths, that's William. It was really nothing. I'm talking to Johnny Marr. You're about to go off to the States soon, aren't you?
I think so, yeah. The end of September, October, something like that.
Because it's not the first time you've been, but it'll be the first time you've toured.
Yeah, we went over there New Year, and we were supposed to do 5 dates, and we did the first date on New Year's Eve, and the next day Mike was stricken with chicken pox, and we had to leave and we cancelled the other dates. It's not something that I'm looking forward to massively, I must admit. Because I was quite disappointed with New York when I went over there. I mean, really, I was expecting to see Sterling Morrison on every street corner or Lou Reed or something. And a lot of the people I talked to, the young people, I was quite surprised at. You know, they're all like in crimpling flares and baseball boots, and they all say, we're into new wave. And you ask them who, and they say the Police and U2 and things like that.
Yeah, because it's either very, very successful rock bands who go down well there, or obvious pop, which you don't fit into either category.
Well, no, I think there's something which they might find a bit hard to grasp in America. The very fact that we do have a northern influence, as we were saying earlier. I mean, none of them are going to know what Woolly Range means, but that probably won't matter too much. But it was strange because when we went over there, we were told that, oh, now is the time to go over because there are a lot of British groups opening the doors and there's this kind of British invasion going on. And we went over there and we found that the majority of the groups which were opening these so-called doors were the groups that we criticised when we first started. You know, I mean, groups like Duran Duran and Culture Club are getting big over there, and I can't really see that their kind of audience going for us just because we're from the same country. I don't think that'll work. So we got a cultist kind of following over there. The LP did remarkably well considering we haven't spent any money on it, and the amount of money we have to spend to get records in the top 100 there. So it has done really well, and that is encouraging. But we'll just take it as it comes, really.
Will it bother you if nothing happens, if they go, don't like the Smiths?
Not at all, really, no, because this probably sounds very patronising, but I don't really think they've got a great deal of taste. So, I mean, of course, I don't want to completely paint everybody with the same brush.
There'll be 400 Americans standing out.
I know.
Is that Danny Marr?
I'm sure there are a lot of people who really like us, and I'd hate to offend them, but I don't attach too much importance to the American market. Even though a lot of people would say that is bad for business, you are smarting yourselves. There's a lot of money to be gained over there, and I understand that, but we're not in it for the money anyway, you know. And it'd be nice to be big over there, but there's no way we're going to go over and break our necks and have to do grueling tours, etc. We're going to go over there and do 5 or 6 dates and get this so-called buzz again, and get everybody waiting for the second LP over there.
Prior to that, you were doing some dates in Wales.
Yeah, I found out about that from listening to your show the other night. What?
So how do you see your future? I mean, is it something that will always be with the Smiths? Do you see yourself as a Smiths man through and through? Or do you see yourself dabbling, having a go at other things, you know, doing something completely diverse or what, digressing in any way?
I'd say eventually, I mean, I do feel good because I'm only 20 and I've got sort of, hopefully, a long time yet to go. So I do feel good, and that is one of the reasons why I was saying earlier, when groups get to the stage we're at, they do worry about losing sort of superficial things, whereas we don't. I mean, it is important to us that we write better songs, and for that reason, as I said, if people don't like that, then it's tough, really. You know, we do know what it's like to be successful and to have a few hit singles, and it is very nice, but I've learned an important lesson in that, and that's that it isn't the most important thing, and it wasn't the most important thing when we started. The most important thing is, you know, that the four of us are rating what we do and enjoying ourselves, and I've got enough money to eat, and so I feel, you know, that the sky's the limit, really. We can do whatever we like, and we can take as many risks as we like, and we think it'd be a shame, really, to be in our position and to squander it. I mean, we do want to deal with important issues lyrically and musically, and we do want to take some more risks, which is why we've put How Soon Is Now on the 12-inch, Janice.
Which I'm going to play.
Yeah. So I feel really good about my position in the Smiths. It couldn't be better for me.
I just wish you the best of luck in anything you do. It's a real pleasure, Johnny Marr. Thank you very, very much indeed. And you're coming back, not here, but to Round Table, aren't you, on August the 31st?
Yeah, and I hope Slade are one of the records that we can review.
Well, there's going to be you and me and Adamant.
Oh, great.
That's Friday, August the 31st. I will see you then. As I say, thanks very, very much. This is How Soon Is Now.